Harp, what are the challenges in such a deal for the Mets?
Yeah, I reached out to a bunch of scouts and execs, Sal, and I wanted to get a feel for, what they thought about this situation, and because it has become kind of the talk of the industry. At least it was until Ohtani went off the other night. But the biggest thing from the Detroit angle is how much pressure it's going to be on the GM and the owner there to hang on to Skubal for one more year. They've been in the postseason the last 2 years. They haven't won a championship since 1984. So he's the best pitcher in the game. They got one more year to at least take a shot. They think they can maybe have enough to win a championship if they put a few more pieces in place. And don't forget, Mike Ilitch was the late owner. He used to spend pretty big to try and win. He died in 2017. Christopher Ilitch, it's a little bit like Hal and George. Everybody says, well, and what if Mike Ilitch was still alive? He'd be spending all this money. So he's already not unpopular there, the owner. If they trade Skubal, I mean, you have to bring back a huge haul to justify it. That's the biggest thing. And they would definitely want McClain. That's what everybody was saying. And if I'm the Mets, I can't give up McClain. Just about anybody else, although Bench, everybody loves Bench too. But so the tricky part is, can you put a big package enough together to satisfy them and something the Tigers people could sell to the fans? Is that they're not just kind of punting and rebuilding, that type of thing.
Yeah, but there is no selling it to a fan base. You just have to take the bullet on that one. You just have to say, listen, it's not. We saw what his salary demands are. We're not going to be able to do it, and there's no way to make it palatable to a fan base. You just have to decide.
Some places it's harder to do than others.
For sure. I mean, you have to make a decision as an organization whether you can do it or not, and then just move forward and try to make the team as good as it can. Your best hope in that situation is that you can get some players back, like a McClain from the Mets, that would help you be a contender again.
Yeah.
That way fans will have short memories. But when you trade a guy like Skubal, who's clearly, far and away the top guy in the sport, that's a pretty tough thing to swallow, especially for Detroit team the past 2 seasons that have been a really good story in Detroit and kind of put the Tigers back on the map. So the timing for them is especially bad.
So I think giving some 10-year-olds some Little Caesars pizza out in Detroit, the Ilitch family, that's not the solution to save the day. But
right.
I think the other thing, too, to look at is that there's maybe a lockout coming up. So 26 is the only guaranteed season that we have left. And that would be the last year of Tarik Skubal. Windows may close. I don't know if we're going to lock it out. We may play in 2027. But maybe. I think that's a huge part of what goes into. I mean, you're not selling. You're right there if you're the Tigers. He's the best player by far, something that you have that no other team has. If you trade him, that would be insane. And then the Mets are giving away pieces that would physically hurt to say goodbye to those players.
Well, that's the one thing, in only 1 year. So you're not guaranteed more than 1 year him, just like the Yankees with Soto. So
sure.
How much are you willing to give up for not? I mean, with the Mets, obviously they have the resources to re-sign him, but still, you never know.
Or you run the risk of having him play for the year, and anything outside of winning an actual World Series, you're going to lose him for nothing. They'd be fools not to trade him. Like, I understand what you guys are saying, and if I were in Detroit, I'd be saying, you got to not only not trade him, you got to lock him up. That's what we'd be saying here. Unfortunately for them, that's a them problem. They don't operate like that. They're not going to be able to spend $400 million or close to that. So what do? You have an option. You either have to commit to the player long term or maximize your return. You can't just let it ride out for a year.
Well, maybe you have a great year, you win the World Series, or make it to the World Series, and you can kind of convince them to stay, come up with the money.
When you haven't won
maybe
in 40
that does
years, and you got a chance. You think you got a chance next year? Maybe it's worth it. I mean, it depends what you get back. It all depends what you can get back from it.
Would you make McClain untouchable for the Mets, Keith?
I would, because you hope that Nolan McClain turns into Tarik Skubal, and you have a guy who's now potentially won back-to-back Cy Youngs. I mean, that's the dream of developing a pitcher like this that nobody heard of. I mean, he went to Seattle University. I haven't heard of any other players that have come out of Seattle University. That Nolan McClain would be an untouchable player for me because of, again, what he could do, the potential to build around. If I'm the Tigers, maybe I don't re-sign Skubal now, but I spend money outside of him and go for it in 2026. That would make it really hard for me if I'm the Tigers to trade him to somebody like the Mets.
You could also make the prospects going that way less by taking on some money, like Javi Baez.
I don't think they could sell that to their fans.
Well, I mean,
you got to get the best possible package.
I'm just saying.
And just this does play into what you're saying about a lockout. This is another reason it's owners versus owners as much as owners versus players at this point. The small mid markets versus the big markets.